everybody, this is a video on slope and y-intercept. How can I write a linear function using the terms slope and y-intercept? So at this time, I want you to pause the video, take out your notebook, and write down this topic, essential question, and the date. Next, we are going to take a look at these questions. Again, please pause the video and write down these questions in your notebook. Okay, so the first question is, what terms, so that's kind of like vocabulary or words, do we use in a real-life linear situation? So remember, our equations for a linear situation can always be written in this form. Y equals mx plus b. When we looked at real-life situations, we usually call m the rate of change, and we usually look at b as the starting point. So that's when we are looking at a real-life situation. It usually will be called the rate of change and the starting point, or like how much you start with. The terms we use when talking about linear math equations are a little bit more technical. Instead of saying rate of change, we call m the slope. And instead of saying starting point, we call our b the y-intercept. They're the same exact things. Rate of change is the same as slope, and starting point is the same as your y-intercept. So for example, if I had an equation like this, my slope would be 2, and my y-intercept would be -8. Okay, go ahead and write this down in your notebook. Next, I'm going to have you write these examples in your notebook, and I want you to pause the video and try to write the slope and y-intercept for each of these equations. So you're looking for your slope, which is m, and you're looking for your b, which is your y-intercept. So go ahead and pause the video, write these problems down, and try to figure out the slope and y-intercept for each problem. Okay, let's look at these problems. So if you remember from before, your slope, m, is always going to be the number next to your x. Y needs to be by itself alone on one side, and then you'll have a number in front of x, and you'll have a b. So some of these we can solve just by looking at them for our slope. This first one, y is by itself. We have 2x plus 3. So our m equals 2. And our b equals +3. We can do the same thing for the next one. Y is by itself. We have 6/8 times x that means m equals 6 over 8. And negative 5 is by itself, so that means our b is negative 5. This problem, we still have y by itself, only this time we have 6 minus x. For this one, it's a little trickier. It doesn't look like we have a number directly in front of x, but if you think about it, any number like 5 times 1 is still 5, 100 times 1 is still 100, so multiplying by 1 will not change our original equation. So we could put a hidden 1 here in our equation, and then we can see that our slope is negative 1 because the number next to our x is negative 1. And our y-intercept would be 6. For this problem, again, y is by itself, so that's good. We have 2x, and then we don't have anything else next to it. What we could do, though, is put plus 0, because adding 0 to something does not change the original equation. So in this case, our slope is 2, and our y-intercept is 0. Up here, we do have a y, but it's not by itself. Same for this one, and same for this one. So for these problems, we actually need to solve to get y by itself before we can figure out what our slope and our y-intercept is. So for the first one, I'm going to draw a line here. We have y minus 5 equals 3x. We have to undo minus 5. The opposite of subtracting 5 is adding 5 to both sides. So negative 5 plus 5 cancels out to just be 0. So we have y equals 3x and 5 we can't add together because one has an x and one has no x with it. So we would leave that as 3x plus 5. So our slope is 3 because there's a 3 in front of the x. We're multiplying the x. And our y-intercept is positive 5. Same thing for this problem. We have to solve for y before we can find the slope. So I'm going to draw a line. In this case, we have 5 times y. When you have a number right in front of like a letter, it's multiplying that letter. So this is telling us we have 5 y's, or 5 times y. The opposite of multiplying by 5 is dividing, so I'm going to divide every term by 5. Because whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. 5 divided by 5 leaves us with 1y. Negative 10x divided by 5 is negative 2x. And negative 15 divided by 5 is negative 3. So our slope is negative 2, and our y-intercept is negative 3. this one, y is already by itself, so we can see our slope is -3/4, because that's the number multiplying our x, and our b equals 8. And in the last example, we have 5y equals 3x minus 8. Again, we have 5 times y, so we need to divide both sides by 5. It's okay to leave these numbers as fractions. 5 divided by 5 will just leave us with y. 3/5, 3 divided by 5 times x, minus 8 divided by 5. So m equals 3/5 and b equals -8/5. Make sure you've written down all these examples in your notebook, and then we'll go to the next slide. So you can also go the other way when you are writing linear equations for using the slope and the y-intercept. So for each of these, we're going to give you the slope and an y-intercept, and you are going to, oops, did not mean to do that. You are going to write the equation. So go ahead and pause the video. Actually, I'll do an example for you first. So the first one, the slope is 1/5. That means m equals 1/5. And the y-intercept is -5. That means b equals -5. Our equation is written in this form: y equals m x plus b. So if we write this as an equation, we'll get 1/5 x plus -5, or y equals 1/5 x minus 5. Adding a negative is the same as subtracting. Okay, go ahead and try each of these. Okay, I'm going to go a little quicker through these examples. The first one, m equals -8, b equals 8. So our equation is y equals -8x plus 8. Then we have m equals 9, b equals 2. Our equation is y equals 9x plus 2. Our slope is 2, m equals 2, y-intercept equals -9. Our equation is y equals 2x plus -9, or y equals 2x minus 9. M equals -4, b equals -7/2, y equals -4x. Hold on, I'm going to move it up a little. -4x plus -7/2, or y equals -4x minus 7/2. Lastly, m equals 5, b equals -1, y equals 5x minus 1. Okay, make sure to check your work and make sure you have the right answers written down in your notebook. Okay, Last examples, we're going to do two graphs together. So the question is, how do you write an equation for a linear graph? So, first, remember that our equation is y equals mx plus b. Our b is our y-intercept. That means where our line crosses our y-axis. Well, you can see that our line crosses our y-axis at the point 4. The point is 0, 4. X is always going to be 0 because we're on the y-axis. So in this case, our b is 4. Our slope is our rise over our run. So we can pick 2 points on our graph. We're going to look at how much it rises over the run. So in this case, our rise is going up. We start here, we go up. We go from -4 up to 0. That means we went up to 4. -4 plus 4 would bring us to 0. Our rise is 4 over our run. We went from -4 to -2. That means our run is 2 because we added 2 to go from -4 to -2. 4 divided by 2 just means that m equals 2. So our equation would be y equals 2x plus 4. Pause the video here and either take a screenshot or draw a sketch of this problem in your notebook. All right, let's do one last graph example. So again, y equals mx plus b. Let's start with our b again. B is our y-intercept. If we look at our line and our y-axis, our y-intercept is at 0, 3. So our b value is 3. Our slope is our rise over our run. Let's just pick 2 points on our graph, this point to this point. You can see we are actually going down and then over. We went from 3 down to -1. So our rise to go from 3 to -1 is -4. 3 minus 4 is -1, or we can count since our scale is going by 1. -1, -2, -3, -4. Our rise is -4. our run, we went from 0 until 2. 1, 2. Run equals 2. Negative 4 divided by 2 equals negative 2. So our equation would be y equals negative 2x plus 3. This equation would make this purple line, which is decreasing, so it has a negative slope. All right, make sure to write this example in your notebook or take a screenshot, and I hope that this helps you with the slope and the y-intercepts. Thanks, bye.